Okay, at this time, I'll call this meeting of the Cromwell Board of Education to order at 7:03 p.m. Alessandra, would you do roll call?
Mrs. Cantwell? Here. Mr. Flanders?
Oh, sorry, he's
I'm here.
Mr. Yeah. Here.
I'm here electronically.
Mrs. Lamberson? Here. Mr. Maturlo?
He'll be absent tonight.
Mr. Menendez?
Here.
Mrs. Murley? Here. Mrs. Post? Here. Mrs. Ross? Here. Hunter Boyce?
Here.
Devin Riggio?
I'm here.
Here.
Audrey Dana?
Here.
Austin Vasile?
I'm here.
Austin Vasone?
Here.
Mr. Fortenbach?
I'm here.
Mr. Netto or Mr. Ireland?
This is John Ireland. I'm here.
The attendance is complete.
Thank you. So we do have one addition to our agenda tonight. We have a presentation by CSG, and at the end of that, we'd like to add a possible action to approve that the program move forward. And anything you'd like to add to that, Enza? Is that how you would say it?
No, Mr. Cycli from CSG is here, and he's going to do a presentation, and he'll explain what that actually means, what we are agreeing to move forward to do. It doesn't mean we're agreeing to build a new building to, next week, which I would love, but that doesn't mean that. So he'll explain it.
Okay, and other than that, we have some celebration of our staff and, of course, updates from Dr. Macri. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? Thank you, Jen. Second? Thank you, Dipti. All in favor? Opposed? Okay, motion passes. We will move on to celebrating our faculty and staff. I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Macri.
Good evening, everyone. We have so many things to celebrate tonight, but I will start with Principal Fran DiFiore. It is with extreme pleasure and overwhelming pride that I notify the public that Ms. DiFiore has received the 2021 UConn Early College Experience Professional Recognition Principal Award for Program Support and Advocacy. This is a very prestigious award as it is only awarded to one recipient each year. So hundreds of principals in Connecticut, and Ms. DiFiore received the award. So I congratulate her. The role of the principal is to be knowledgeable, obviously, of the ECE program characteristics, support, assist, and involve teachers with professional development opportunities, expand course offerings to support specific needs of the student population, and to ensure students are prepared for post-secondary opportunities. Ms. DiFiore will be honored at a virtual professional recognition awards show ceremony via YouTube Thursday this week, May 13th at 5 p.m. If any of you would like to come, I could definitely pass that invitation along to you, and you can join us. Congratulations to Ms. DiFiore, very well-deserved honor. Ms. DiFiore, are you there?
Yes, thank you, Dr. Macri. I really appreciate that.
You're welcome. Thank you for everything you do.
It's real. But one thing I'd like to say, though, the reason for this is because of how strong and how credible our ECE teachers are that we have at the high school. I would not be getting this award if it weren't for those teachers.
Absolutely. And we'll talk about Ms. DiFiore in a little while again with the not so great news, bittersweet news. And now I believe Ms. Cocciola is on the phone to honor our custodians. Ms. Coach?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Hello, everyone. Good evening. I want to this evening, along with our whole school, we would like to honor Paul Scalora, Matt McTeague, and Gail Lavadia. And I would like to recognize these individuals as they take great pride in their work, and they have kept our schools clean and safe for all of us throughout this whole unique year. Their dedication goes beyond their contractual duties, particularly in this extraordinary year. These three individuals went above and beyond. They prepped the building for safety by following all the COVID mitigation strategies, taping hallways, measuring spaces in the classroom, moving furniture for optimum space. And they certainly made sure we had all what we need on a daily basis to keep our desks clean, our kids safe, and keeping a rather challenging building clean and operational. Paul will, in the morning, you'll see him in the morning as he participates in the morning drop-off, helping kids to get out of their cars, to go into the school. Matt, he's amazing how he keeps that cafeteria spotless and sanitized after every lunch break. And Gail is always on night, making sure everything is clean at night, and she always provides regular updates. I could go on and on. They're a great team whom we would be lost without. So I want to thank publicly Paul, Matt, and Gail for caring for our CMS community and being the best team members, and they have such a strong work ethic. So you are our quiet heroes that make it possible for us to teach and learn, especially in this extraordinary year. So I want to thank them very much.
I agree with Ms. Coccioli. Obviously, the Board of Education is in that middle school, and Paul, Matt, and Gail could not be more kind and very conscientious of their work. They take such pride in the school building and what they do, and they absolutely are friendly faces to the students and the staff. So they truly are our silent heroes. So thank you for honoring them tonight, Ms. Cocciola. It's well deserved.
Absolutely. I'm honored, so I want to thank them.
And a big thank you on behalf of the board for all of your hard work to our custodians. And congratulations to Mrs. DiFiore for your prestigious award. It's well earned. Next, we will move on to celebrating our students. Ms. Cocciola, would you like to go on with Ethan Nixdorf?
Yes, I would love to. Ethan, we felt was so deserving of recognition. He's our 8th grade student, and his mom, I think, is on the phone, Ms. Janine Marin. Ms. Marin, were you able to get through?
Yes, I am. I'm here. Thank you.
Hello there. So, everyone, I want to introduce to you Ethan. I do have a small video you can see after Ethan. Ethan has grown in so many ways over the last 3 years. He has made incredible gains academically, but more importantly, he has grown socially and emotionally. As autism often manifests in difficulties with disruption of schedules, Ethan has not only learned to adapt to changes in classroom assignments, teachers, and timing, but he readily embraces change. He's become more independent, engaging, and is now initiating interaction with small group peers. During long-distance learning, he enjoyed unique modifications. He stacked wood for his mom as part of Mr. Penny's PE class, along with many other Mr. Penny assignments. His favorite being able to do 10 push-ups. He recently even modeled his hair after Mr. Penny. That's a pretty funny one. So you can ask Miss Marin about that one. And for those of you, if you know Mr. Penny, he has his own unique hairstyle. He sings Frozen songs on video for Mr. Bergeson. He only likes music in school if Mr. B suggests it. He works on country and continent puzzles for Mrs. Pavlik's social studies class, and he takes notes in Mr. Jerry's social studies class. He played board games both for Mrs. Cross' speech assignment and occupational therapy for Miss Covey. If you give Ethan an assignment he enjoys, like the IXL.com math assignments, he may even do it over, telling his mom he has to do 100 questions to get 100% instead of the 20 minutes assigned by Mrs. Bremer. To break up the isolation of the pandemic, he's often asked to do his homework at his mom's Peaceful Chaos yoga studio. Bringing whatever materials he needed, he set up a sensory-sensitive space to do his work. Ethan has a great sense of humor, and he always has a funny line for different circumstances. Preferring being back in the building, Ethan loves to initiate greetings to his science teacher, Mrs. Seguro. He gives a special thank you to the CAF staff for his ice cream sandwich they give him every day. Most importantly, Ethan has gone from not being able to stay in a general education classroom for the entire period to not only staying, but giving presentations with the help of his wonderful paraprofessionals. Over the last 3 years, Ethan has participated in unified sports, unified music, cross country, and he helps the office maintain our bulletin boards. Yes, he does a great job. Without him, I don't know where we'd be, and carries out various other office duties through his life skills class. With the help of Mrs. Bremer and Miss Covey, he has carried over his life skills into the community by now using his wallet, library cards, and making purchases. Outside of our school community, Ethan has participated in the recreation department's unified soccer and unified baseball. He's a frequent patron not only of the Cromwell Library, but libraries in Rocky Hill and Wethersfield, as he knows just what each collection holds and which year he took out what. He's a wonderful son, brother, service dog owner, student, community member, singer, athlete, and comedian. This young man manages both his autistic challenges and rare medical condition like a champ. So thank you, Ethan, for reminding us every day how valuable diverse learning is and what it means to be an amazing part of the Cromwell community. And we will certainly miss you as you move on to your next journey at high school. So thank you for allowing us to talk about Ethan, and hopefully you get to see his short clip about what he's grown. So thank you again, and thank you, Ethan, for making our lives special.
Congratulations, Ethan. We are all so proud of you.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mrs. Cochiola. Big congratulations to him. We're so happy to hear about his progress, and good luck next year in high school. I'm sure he'll do extraordinary.
Yeah. Yes, and thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Marin, as well, for being such a fabulous parent for us as well. So
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you for recognizing just how much he's actually grown in the last 3 years. You know, the transition to middle school is tough for any kid. It was going to be a little extra tough for Ethan, and I'm just amazed at how much he's matured. I think out of any 3 years in the last 14, he's grown the most since he started at CMS. So thank you for everything and all of the support.
Well, that's wonderful to hear. And I'm glad he has you, so I'm sure he will do well. And you've always been such a good supporter, Mrs. Marin, so thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, so do we have
thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and no correspondence tonight? Okay. I'm told we do have a public comment. Do we have Mrs. Gaduti on the line? I think you're muted, Alicia. While you're muted, I will read the rules for public comment. So individuals are welcome to address the Board of Education for up to 3 minutes each during the public comment portion of the meeting, but board members will not generally engage in dialogue. The Board of Ed Chair may, at his or her discretion, extend the time for public comments. To facilitate efficient sharing of your comments, we encourage you to share any comments you may have about instruction, discipline, or learning materials first with your student's teacher, then principal, and followed by the superintendent before bringing the comments to the Board of Education. However, if you do not believe your comments have been addressed appropriately, or if you believe they should be shared with the Board of Education for any other reason, please feel free to do so. And lastly, all comments must not include personal attacks, and comments cannot be discourteous, threatening, vulgar, or otherwise inappropriate. The board chairperson may, at his or her discretion, curtail any public comments or terminate any such individual's privilege of address at any time if they violate any of these rules, violate reasonable standards of decorum, are boisterous, or are repetitious. The Board of Education reserves the right to limit public comments to particular topics. And without further ado, if you'd like to state your name and address, Mrs. Gadudi, if you're able, are you unmuted? I don't think she can hear us. Alicia, are you on the line? We can see you, but we can't hear anything yet.
Can you hear me?
Now we can, yes.
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay.
Can you hear us?
I
Okay.
had to shut off the online version. Good evening. I'm Alicia Gadudi from 8 Newbury Road, the proud mom of Alex, Jr., Olivia, a freshman, and Sam, a 5th grader. In our many years living in Cromwell, I've never before spoken at a Board of Ed meeting, but I wanted to share my concerns about policies and procedures that I feel need to be put in place related to the safety of student athletes. I'd like to just share a story about a recent experience that we had. We had planned a family vacation over April break. Our son Alex is now playing baseball, and
This is not a valid menu option.
he didn't miss practices and games and wouldn't lose any playing time for the remainder of the season. Reluctantly, we let him stay home with his grandmother so that he could fully participate in baseball. On the morning of April 14th, we received a call from Alex's JV coach saying there was an accident and Alex was hurt. He was hit in the face with a line drive. Coach said he was bleeding badly and his teeth seemed to be knocked out of place. Coach was not able to determine if Alex had a head injury, as he wasn't qualified to make that determination. We had called the trainer, who was on the way. Coach was told the trainer would be there in 10 to 15 minutes. In the meantime, our son's lip was completely split, his teeth were hanging down, he was spitting blood. The coach told us that he was all alone with the team. They had a first aid kit, but no ice. He then sent us a picture of Alex, which will, for those of you that are parents, imagine it's going to stay with me forever. Coach told us the trainer was on the way. 10 minutes passed, then 20, and then 30. It did feel like an eternity. Alex's grandmother arrived, but he had yet to be properly assessed for head injury. According to the accident report, it was an hour from when Alex was hit when he was finally assessed by the trainer for brain injuries and released. Alex went to the dentist, who directly sent him to CCMC. His face was stitched by the plastic surgeon. He had immediate dental surgery to brace his teeth in place. He ended up with a serious infection and has had 2 root canals with another one potentially pending. I tell you this not to make you uncomfortable, but really as an alert that we must immediately address serious issues related to training, equipment, staffing, and safety protocols for our student athletes. We've spoken with the athletic director, the principal, and Dr. Macri, really concerned to learn that the trainer believed ice packs didn't need to be included with first aid supplies for teams. I was disturbed that there isn't a procedure or training for coaches about when to call 911. I was told that there isn't an expectation currently for response time for medical staff or trainers when a player is injured. However, a commitment was made to us to immediately address these gaps. Now nearly a month has passed, and procedures have not been reviewed and updated. Assessments have not been done to determine if another coach needs to be added or reallocated to the team. Additional training has not been provided to coaches. I was told that ice packs are now supplied in first aid kits. I'm grateful Alex will recover from this accident. Though he will have 2 or maybe 3 root canals and a scarred lip, it could have been much worse. He could have had a brain injury, or more severely broken bones, or an injury impacting his eyesight. As parents of student athletes, we need to be confident that the safety of our children is the top priority for the district, and that policies and procedures are put in place and properly followed to assure that end. Alex's situation brought to light deficits in our safety planning and protocols, and I'm asking today that we immediately work to review what is in place and address gaps so that other student athletes get quick, appropriate, and thorough care. And we are happy to help with that process.
Thank you so much, Alicia, and we're very sorry to hear about what happened to Alex. Thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you.
do you have any comments you want to add? We don't generally respond to public comment, but if you'd like to chime in.
You have to trust that I am doing everything that I possibly can. I have spoken to Ms. Gudati, and there are many intricacies that are in place. We have a written format that, and we have spoken to the coaches. Miss Hansen and Miss Maher are working together. I did ask Miss Gudati to call Nurse Jillian Hansen so that she could be provided with the most recent update. So I would advise Miss Gudati to do that again as well. But we take what happened very seriously. However, I'm addressing it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Next, we'll move on to, sorry?
Can we just get an update on this at the next meeting to what the status is of
Of the protocols?
follow up on this, please?
Sure. Okay, do we have Hunter on the line for an update for CHS?
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you, Hunter.
For the general announcement, the Carbon Club recently hosted a river cleanup event at the state park. This week, the school celebrated Teacher Appreciation Week, last week. Many clubs offered gifts to high school teachers, and there was a spirit day on Friday when the students dressed like teachers and the teachers dressed like students. Thursday was also Nurses Day. Nurse Jen received a gift from several student organizations. AP testing started last week and will continue until the beginning of next week. Mrs. Tobias and Mrs. Leahy's class, along with the work study class, had a fundraiser where they sold plants, room fresheners, and Mother's Day cards. The Student Council holds an executive board election for next year. Congratulations to all who were elected, especially Olivia Polkowski, our junior Board of Ed representative for next year. On Saturday, the class of 2023 held a fundraiser at Chipotle in Middletown. On April 27, the school celebrated the Day of Silence. The day celebrates and recognizes the LGBTQ plus voices that have historically been silenced. The Gay Straight Alliance collected donations and handed out rainbow pins for the occasion. On Wednesday, April 28, many of the students aged 16 and up received the Pfizer vaccine for the coronavirus in the auditorium. The students will receive their second doses of the vaccine at the second clinic on May 19th. The seniors had their senior celebration at the TPC on May 1st. Most of the class attended, and the class got to watch the senior video after dinner.
For sports, yesterday the boys tennis team had a match against O-Line. They unfortunately lost 1-6 but played a good game. They will compete against East Hampton on Thursday. The girls' tennis and softball teams also had games yesterday. The tennis team had a tough game against Old Lyme and ended up losing despite their strong efforts. The softball team played against Morgan and won 16-1. Today, the boys' baseball, golf, and lacrosse teams all had games. The girls' lacrosse and softball teams had games as well. The boys' golf team played against Hale Ray. They will play against Haddam Killingworth next Tuesday. The boys' baseball team played against Morgan. They had a close game but lost 3-2. The boys and girls lacrosse teams played against North Brantford. Both teams ultimately lost but had great performances. The boys lacrosse team will play against Capital Classical tomorrow and Old Saybrook on Thursday. The girls team will play against Old Saybrook on Thursday as well. The girls softball team played against North Brantford. They will play against Valley Regional on Thursday. The boys and girls track team will compete against Old Saybrook tomorrow.
Thank you both. Are there any questions for our student reps from the board? Okay. Next, we'll move on to Cromwell Middle School representatives. Audrey Dana, if you'd like to start.
Hi.
Austin, is this Austin?
So starting off with the art club, the CMS Art Club has been in the process of brightening up the lobby of CMS by painting 2 colorful murals. One mural was chosen by the building administration, and the other was designed by Anna Marie Mueller, a student from Art Club.
All students have been working together to add their own colorful touches to these artworks. We are also exploring possibilities for decorating the art display case with a unique design.
And with softball, the girls' softball team is currently 0-2.
The team is working hard and continues improving each day.
The baseball season is off to a great start. Players are happy to be on the field and have adjusted to the new COVID guidelines for the 2021 season.
Our current record is 2-1. Cromwell won their most recent game against East Hampton with a score of 18-1. We have high expectations for the rest of the season.
CMS Track had their first home meet on April 30th against Ram Middle School. Due to the pandemic, it has been difficult to find time to train at the CHS track, but the CMS athletes stepped up to the challenge. They ran well despite the rain and wind. MVPs of the meet were Austin Visone and Audrey Dana.
The team had their second meet against McGee Middle School in Berlin yesterday. Both the boys and girls ran, threw, and jumped well, but McGee ended up prevailing. The coaches wanted to give a special shout-out to the MVPs of the meet, Peyton Tessmer and Caroline Phillips. Both placed in their events and always cheer on their teammates. They are a great example of what the CMS track exemplifies.
The Tech Club will have its last meeting on Tuesday, May 18th.
In Tech Club, students design scenes from famous retro video games, 3D printed items using our new 3D printers, and work to create an orientation video for 5th graders coming to CMS next fall.
Cromwell Middle School Future Teachers Club continues to meet on a weekly basis. Meetings have been filled with many visits from engaging guest speakers that took the time to share why they entered the teaching profession.
Also, the future teachers created and designed their own Google Classrooms. Lastly, each future teacher crafted a lesson plan and were afforded the opportunity to teach his or her lesson to the club.
Okay, thank you both. Are there any questions for our representatives from the board? Seeing none, thank you, Audrey and Austin. Next, we'll move on to reports of liaisons from the Town Council and Board of Finance. Mr. Fortenbach, would you like to begin?
Sure, I'll go first. Thank you. Good evening, everybody. Steve Fortenbach, Town Council. Just a couple of things. One, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is hosting a George Floyd Remembrance on May 25th at Pearson Park at the football field. It's going to be starting around 5:30, and they expect it to go till about 7-ish. I know the 25th is already a busy night in town, but if you can pass that along to the students, that'd be great. They'll also be, so the committee is hoping that this is a kickoff, kind of introduce everybody to the committee, who the members are, and, talk about some of the other functions that they're looking to organize going forward. So the other question I had, so that's my liaison report, but one of the questions that I had, and someone can address this, is now that the Pfizer vaccine has been approved for under 16, is there going to be another a vaccine event or a setup like they had at the high school? And the other comment, I actually had a couple of parents contact me regarding, so there's some confusion about the number of people that are allowed outside for outside events. I know that as of the 19th of May, that changes. So right now it's 200, but does it go up after the 19th? Because there are a bunch of events that are upcoming. So there's some confusion. Parents have been asking me, and I figured I'd pass that along. So if that could be addressed, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Macri, I assume you want to address any information about outside events in your superintendent updates, so it can wait until then, correct? Sure. Okay. See, in vaccine clinics, that's something we don't know about yet. A second vaccine clinic hasn't been. Nope. Right. Okay, thank you. And Mr. Ireland, would you like to report for Board of Finance, please?
Yes, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So just real quick, and it kind of feels a little bit of a, wrap-up kind of report. Last Tuesday, the referendum was held in town. The budgets did pass. We met the finance board that evening and set the mill rate and took care of, the final steps in the budget action for 2021 to 2022. And so, that did pass last week in case, for whatever reason you hadn't heard yet. But other than that, that's pretty much it from my end.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the board for either Mr. Borenbach or Mr. Ireland? Okay. Thank you very much. And at this time, we'll move on to superintendent's updates and responses to Board of Ed comments and action items from the prior meeting. Dr. Macri.
Okay, let's see. Where should we start? First, I will have Miss DiFiore and Miss Cocciola update what we are doing for graduation and promotion. So, who would like to go first? Miss DiFiore?
Sure, I can go first. At this point, we have looked at providing a graduation similar to what we have in the past, except for we are going to have a few changes. One is we're allowing students to have 4 tickets, so they can have 4 guests come. We are planning on putting those 4 guests in pods. So we have 137 graduates, which means we will need 137 different pods created with 4 seats in each pod, and making sure that they are distanced appropriately from the pod next to them, the pod behind them, and the pod in front of them. This graduation will take place in the front of the building, similar to what we've always done. The stage will be much smaller. The students will not be on the stage because of the way we are going to need to distance them. And so the graduates will be sitting in the front, and we will have a much smaller stage, but the graduates will be distanced between each chair. And so the 137 of them will be distanced out. We plan on spreading these seats as we typically, if you know our traditional graduation, try to picture that going across the visitor parking lot, and we're going to be utilizing all of that space for seating up to the island. So it will be actually double the space so that we can make sure people are distanced apart. We will need to know what graduate has each pod, because in case we're asked to contact trace, we will need to know where everyone is seated. With that said, we know that typically the graduation has had a certain amount of tickets, and then people will just join in around the outskirts. That won't be allowed this year because our outskirts are actually being used, because we're spreading the people out so much, and that we can't contact trace people we don't know. So we will only allow the 4 tickets for each graduate. I guess that's pretty much it. And the band will be playing, and the chorus will be singing. So that's really, really good thing.
Thank you, Ms. DiFiore.
I think that's it.
Thank you, Mrs. DiFiore. That sounds like a great plan. If it were to rain, are we going to be using that big tent that's out back instead? Is that the backup plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if the weather's bad, we're going to use the tent. What we're going to do is we're going to have the tickets, the 4 tickets, we're going to have 2 different colors. So what we will do is we will utilize one of the colors. So if it does pour, we do have to have graduation based on the plans for Project Grad. That can't be canceled. And so we will only allow 2 tickets per graduate if it's pouring.
Okay. And will we be broadcasting this live streamed for those who can't
Yeah,
attend?
I talked with Mr. McGuff. Yep, and we're going to live stream to anyone who can't see it. It will be live streamed. We've already discussed this, and we've done this the past couple of years anyway. So we're definitely equipped to do that.
Thank you. Are there any questions from board members? Jen?
I'm just curious what they're doing for project graduation.
Do you know what's going on for project graduation, Ms. DeFiore?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't hear it. Yes. So the parents have organized a trip to Quasi, and the students will be going to Quasi Park for the entire evening through into the morning, and they will be going there by bus. The buses will be leaving by the high school and returning to the high school. And so they will be spending the entire evening well into the wee hours of the morning at Quasi Park.
Sounds great. Any other questions? Catherine?
I'm assuming there's not going to be parking issues because we're using some of the parking lot area.
We have a plan in place of how to dismiss teachers early so that when the students are ready to go, we will have most of the staff leaving the building. We've addressed everything that we've needed to address. This has been in plan since November.
Sorry. Well, that's really for 8th grade, but typically in the evening when we do have a night graduation, we have many of our staff has been great. They all volunteer. We usually have about 40 teachers volunteer for graduation, and they will park cars along the back, and they have a whole system that they use, and to provide handicap parking as well. And even though we're using that part up to the island, we'll be fine because we typically have never used that for parking anyway.
Thank you. Any other questions? No? Okay. That's all very exciting. Thank you for sharing. Back to you, Dr. Macri. Are we going to continue with the end of year trend here?
Yes. Ms. DeFiore, is there anything else that you would like to talk about for end of year activities? We did have the prom for the senior celebration for the students at the TCP on May 1st. It went very well. I'm not sure if there's anything else, Ms. DeFiore, that you'd like to.
Yeah, sure. Sorry, yes, I'm sorry. We have lots of things planned for our seniors. We have our senior awards night, which is May 20th. That will be taking place under the tent. Each award recipient is allowed to bring 2 guests. And we're also going to be live streaming that as well because we got such a great response last year because we had to do it virtually. And they said, grandparents got to be in the safety of their own home and watch their grandchildren get awards. And so we decided that just because we have only 2 tickets for each award recipient, we're going to live stream that as well. So that'll happen May 20th. We have quite a few concerts planned throughout the next few weeks. And we actually have, typically, as you know, we've always gone to the Cromwell Diner for breakfast. This year, we're going to have a wonderfully catered breakfast from, I think, the Piccadilly Deli or the
New York Pickle Deli.
Anyway, they are going to be catering breakfast the morning of graduation, and we're going to be doing that right under the tent. And so the students can enjoy that and then fall right into our practice that we typically have at like 10 in the morning. So they'll be right there on the campus, and we'll go right from breakfast right to the rehearsal. We are planning, as you'll see later, we had to change the date of Six Flags because Six Flags was opening later than we had expected. But we are going on May 28th, which is a Friday, the Friday before Memorial Day weekend. The seniors will be going to Six Flags. And I think that's about it.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to hear that they're able to have all their celebrations this year.
Yep, everyone has worked very hard in every school building, all the teachers, parents, working very closely to give our kids everything we possibly can and still stay within the guidelines to the best of our ability. Ms. Cocciola, would you like to go next? And then we can quickly have Mr. Butwell and then Mrs. Dituno speak to your end of the year activities, but we'll have Miss Coach go next.
Sure. Hello, everybody. Yes, we sent out to 8th grade families a pretty lengthy, detailed explanation of how we're going to work on promotion this year. So this year we're very fortunate that we can have the promotion outside under the tent up at the Cromwell High School in the back of near the soccer field. And we worked with Mrs. DiFiore and Dr. Macri about dismissing staff, and we were very specific about what time parents could arrive. We are very fortunate that we can have two family members per student to attend, because we're going to create those small two-person pods to separate, because we're still contact tracing and we want to make sure that everyone stays safe. We are asking everyone to wear their masks even though they're outside. And we're asking folks ahead of time. A Google form was sent out for folks to sign up ahead of time, names and phone numbers. So in the event we have to contact trace, we'll be ready to roll. And we'll also be live streaming. So folks will be able to, as I had said, they'll have a front row digitally. And we're looking forward to it. And we're going to be able to do this rain or shine, because we'll be under the tent, because we're pretty limited in our times because of, the high school and all of their activities. And, just telling folks to dress accordingly. And we're all going, sending positive thoughts for sunny weather for the 8th. And looking very forward to bringing our kids to the high school, having their promotion ceremony, and then bringing them back to the middle school for dismissal. So we're excited.
Thank you, Anne. That all sounds great.
Any questions?
Any questions from the board?
Oh, good.
Nope, none. Okay, we move on to Woodside. Mr. Butwell, if you have anything to share.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So Woodside is working hard this year to have some of the traditional events that our fifth graders enjoy. So we will be having, we did complete our DARE program this year, so we will be having, we won't be having a huge DARE celebration altogether, but Detective Tolton, who was our DARE instructor this year, will be having a celebration with each of the fifth grade classrooms. And while he meets with them, he'll be recognizing the essay winners from each classroom, and also recognizing the work of each class. Those classroom level ceremonies will be streamed to those parents who would like to watch. That will be coming up on between May 17th and 19th, depending on what day Detective Tolton is in those classrooms. We've also been working very hard on our fifth grade picnic, which we are thrilled to be able to put together for our fifth graders. That's going to be on Monday, June 7th. And of course, with social distancing and health guidelines, we had to change things up a bit, but we've been working in conjunction with the PTO and helpful parents and of course classroom teachers to come up with activities that will be both safe and fun and follow all the guidelines for social distancing. So we're looking forward to that day. And then finally, on the last day of school, June 9th, we will have our promotion ceremony. We're going to hold it in the gym as we do each year. We're going to stream the ceremony to parents, and we're going to also break that ceremony into 2 sessions so that the kids, as they come into the gym, will be socially distanced. So we'll do 4 classes and 4 classes. And I just wanted to mention, in addition, we're working with ECS right now to coordinate the Step Up Day events, which we know the kids enjoy meeting their teachers before they go home for the summer. So we're working on getting, we have plans in the works for second graders to come over and visit Woodside, get a tour of the building, and of course meet their teacher for next year. And then we'll be doing our in-house Step Up Days for our third graders going to fourth grade and our fourth graders going to fifth grade.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to hear Officer Tolton is reunited with the students briefly. That's exciting. I didn't expect to hear that. And I think that the ceremony might go even better broadcast, because it's really hard to see in that gym. as far as promotion ceremonies go. So good plans. Does anyone have any questions or comments? None? Okay. Thank you. Then we'll move on to ECS. Mrs. DeTuno?
Thank you.
Mrs. DeTuno, are you on the line to give us an update? Maybe not.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Hi, everybody. All of our students in grade 2 will be recognized in a celebratory video created by our classroom teachers, and these will be streamed to parents. In addition, all of the second graders are going to get a promotion T-shirt, and we'll take pictures and send those to parents as well. Like Mr. Butwell shared with you, we are excited about a step-up day for both ECS, preschool to K, K to 1, 1 to 2, and then 2 walking over to Woodside to meet their new teacher.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mrs. DeTuno? None? Okay. And thank you very much for the updates, everyone. And Dr. Macri, if you'd like to get back to your updates, that would be great.
Great. Okay. Let's see. Quickly, we had an SEL panel, social emotional learning panel, that we put together. We included myself, Dr. McLean, who is the moderator. We had our social worker, we had teachers, and we had Mrs. Marin, wonderful parent, Janine Marin, who you heard from earlier. She owns the Peaceful Chaos Yoga Center, and we taped, recorded. I'd say it'll be approximately an hour, hopefully, by the time we get it down, and we'll be sharing it with the community about how do we respond to COVID-19 and help our students and help our adults with the stress that everyone has been under. It is based off of the work from Dr. Mark Brackett and Ruler, so everyone was phenomenal. We plan to share that very shortly, and we'll have flyers sent out to everyone, and we'll have it posted on our website. So I'm very proud of everyone, and thank you to all the teachers, social workers, Kate Puro, Mrs. Marin for participating. It just made it such a more lively discussion. We have a district and school equity committees formed. Our school equity committee at the high school has already began writing their position statement for equity and inclusion in all schools. We have formulated our district equity committee. We have parents and students and staff on that committee as well. I have to tell you, we did ask, each school sent something out to invite parents to ask to participate on the committee, and we had an overwhelming response. So we actually had to turn some people away, otherwise it would have been over 100 people, and that doesn't become that productive. So I'm very happy that we have many families that are very interested in participating in the District Equity and Inclusion Committee. We have a lot of work to do, and I am hopeful that we are going to make a lot of headway. So that has been happening as well. I do have Dr. McLean on the phone, and she's going to quickly let you know about our summer enrichment update. As you all know, our students have fallen behind in many ways. So we are doing a few things this summer with American Relief Funds and other grant money to be able to catch our students up to the best of our ability. Like I mentioned in the past, we do have quite a few students who are quite behind and are struggling and are failing courses and are disengaged because of, for lack of better, their socialization component is missing. They haven't been in school. Things are different. The mask wearing, it all has an effect on our students. So Dr. McLean, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. I'm excited to be able to expand our summer school program. We've created a summer learning institute for our secondary students in grades 6 through 12. We've identified about 75 to 80 kids in each of the buildings, the high school and the middle school. These students were identified based on their need for maybe some transition support going from WIF to the middle school or from the middle school to the high school, to do some academic support. Within the program, we are embedding some social emotional learning. We're going to be providing some executive function support. And we've partnered with Empower Leadership and Sports Adventure Center in Middletown, and they're going to be providing some fun leadership training for our students throughout the summer session. So the session is going to go from June 21st to July 29th. It'll be 4 days a week, Monday through Thursday, with the exception of July 4th week. That will go Tuesday through Friday because that Monday is a holiday. And it's going to be a half-day program in the morning. So we are just in the process of contacting students now to see if they will be able to attend. This will be free of charge to the students, and we're really hoping that we'll be able to get some social supports in place, some transition supports in place, and to support academics as well, but really focus on that relationship building piece so that students can be more engaged in their school work and their school community. So that's what we're planning so far.
Great, thank you. And as far as elementary school, we are looking at extended learning programs for next year. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that. We just finally got our allocation from the State Department of Education for the Elementary and Secondary Emergency School Relief Fund under the American Rescue Plan. So I'll talk to you a little bit about that. But before I do that, thank you, Dr. McLean. Any questions for Dr. McLean?
How did we identify which students would qualify or would be good candidates for the program? And can she put in layman's terms what executive function support means? And
Sure,
how do we
so
identify students that need executive function support?
Dr. McLean, do you want to talk about SRBI? And
Yep.
yeah, okay.
Sure. Yep. We have some students that are receiving some academic support. And so we use a variety of data points. We also worked with our social workers and our student support services staff to identify those students that could potentially need some transition. We looked at attendance data. We looked at several different data points that identified these students that will need some extra support, that we feel will need some extra support going into next year.
Do we consult with our teachers when we do this too? Like the students' actual teachers that we're looking at?
Yes, they're part of the SRBI process. I'm sorry.
Yes,
So
we have SRBI teams. Yep.
They're a huge.
Yeah, we have SRBI teams in place that identify. Can you hear me?
Yeah, it was just me. I was just trying to explain how the SRBI process works. That's a team of staff members, but it's hugely run by teachers, because the teachers are the ones that are usually bringing the students to the SRBI process. But if you want to say anything else about that, Carrie, go ahead.
Nope, I was just going to say exactly that.
Okay, Lori has a question. Go ahead, Lori.
So the Summer Learning Institute, is this going to be separate from extended school year, or is that going to be, are they going to be combined? Is it all one program, or is ESY going to be separate?
Yes.
So the ESY dates wouldn't necessarily be these dates. That's
No.
a totally.
No, ESY are actually different. Yes.
Yeah. I didn't know if you were
No.
thinking of putting it all together. So you're still keeping it separate.
Yes.
And the summer learning, is that going to be at the high school?
It's going to be at the high school, and it's going to be, are we having it all at the high school, Carrie, or did we decide on 2 buildings?
Nope. The middle school students will be at the middle school, and the high school students will be at the high school.
We have a lot going on at the high school, so we have to.
And just one more thing. Do you know if ESY will be at high school again?
ECS and high school.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? So just to clarify, there is no summer school programming at all for pre-K to 5?
No.
Okay.
No. Research-based, when you're looking at, if you can't offer something that's more extensive, so the entire day, which we can't, chances of parents being able to drop students off and pick them up are very minimal because of daycare issues. So usually parents choose to enroll their students in camp. Also, it's just too expensive to do it both ways for everyone. So we focused on secondary because of the credit bearing classes, and we really want to make sure that the quite a few freshmen going into their sophomore year can get caught up so that they can graduate on time. So we looked at this more as a transitional summer school program, and we'll do extended school day hopefully beginning in September for elementary.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? No. Okay, move on to presentations and reports of administration. In your packet, you have reference A, the budget update.
Do you want? I'm sorry.
Sorry, did
still
I
have
miss
more.
something? Oh,
yeah,
I didn't know you were-
I'm sorry.
okay.
I
No,
know we
feel
have a
free.
lot. I'd like to congratulate Mr. Dan Delia. Mr. Daniel Delia is our district teacher of the year for this school year. And I would just like to share this with you. It's amazing what Mr. Delia, I believe that all of you at this table know who Mr. Delia is because all of our students go through him. And when you mention Mr. Delia's name to students, they immediately light up. He truly is what the definition of a teacher is and means. And besides being a phenomenal educator, he is a compassionate person as well. And then there is a committee that meets, and it consists of former teachers of the year. It is run by the CEA, and myself and Dr. McLean get to participate. And there were teachers on the committee, and there was a board member and a teacher on the committee, Mrs. Cantwell. And I just would like to read this. This is what Mr. Delia wrote when he had to submit his reflection about community involvement. So he is not only a proponent for children in the classroom, but outside of the classroom, not only in Cromwell, but in his own hometown as well. And Mr. Delia says, as he reflected upon his community involvement outside the classroom, I realized that over the past 20 or so years, my focus has always been on improving the lives of children. When my children, Daniel 18 and Emma 21, were young and participating in youth activities, I would make sure that I was involved. I volunteered as a youth soccer coach and became the league coordinator for Newtown Youth Soccer so that I could play a direct role and have a positive impact on my children and their peers. Beyond that, I volunteered in the classroom for both of my children and was a member of the PTO for their entire tenures in public school. I volunteered to be a coach on both Odyssey of the Mind in Bethel, Connecticut, and Invention Convention in Cromwell. And he writes in parentheses, prior to it being a stipend position. As I did too, Dan, same thing in North Haven. As I felt these provided students the opportunity to grow, create, and make decisions that would help them in the future. One of his fondest memories, my fondest memories, was working with the residents of Covenant Village as judges for the local Invention Convention competition. Finally, I thoroughly enjoyed bingo calling for PTO Bingo Night, Career Day at CMS, and working with a wonderful group of colleagues to make a STEM night at Woodside a great success. Over the past 4 years, I increased my community service significantly through serving on the Newtown Board of Education as Vice Chair, the Board of Advanced Regional Educational Service Center, Joint BOE, BOF, and LC Non-Lapsing Work Group, Hawley School Capital Improvement Subcommittee, Facilities and Finance Subcommittee as Chair. These opportunities mean so much to me because I am able to serve both the students and the community and have a real and positive impact. This service to the community has been both challenging and rewarding, and I plan to continue to serve in the future as I feel the most rewarding experience is the ability to serve. And that's how Mr. Delia looks at teaching. He looks at teaching as an honor and an ability to serve our students every single day and to find something extremely special in every student. And I believe that if you talk to any of our children, they will tell you that he does exactly that, and his colleagues agree as well. So a huge congratulations to Mr. D'Elia, and we are going to absolutely encourage him, and I believe he's going to do so, apply for the Teacher of the Year for the state of Connecticut. So congratulations, Mr. D'Elia. And I'm not sure if Mr. D'Elia is on the phone, but if anyone would like to say something, I hope he's listening.
Lori, go ahead if he's.
Yeah, I just want to congratulate Mr. D'Elia, and also, you know, the other candidates were very strong too, and it was a good problem to have. It was a really hard decision, and we're very lucky that we had 3 excellent candidates, and we struggled. And I'm not good at making decisions, but I mean, Mr. D'Elia, he's just phenomenal, and I just want to congratulate him and thank him for everything he's done for our district.
Well, thank you for being on the committee, Lori, and I'm not surprised at all that Mr. D'Elia won, and I guess they asked him the right question because I can't believe how much community involvement he is involved in. Wow. Does anyone else have any other comments for Mr. D'Elia? Okay, well, congratulations to Mr. D'Elia from the board.
Okay, and lastly, talking about the grant and then our budget, as you all know, you don't see the budget here on specifically, so you don't have to make any very difficult decisions. We've been working incredibly hard to try to figure out how we're going to make up for the $312,000. I think it's very important for everyone to know. Some people believe that we always make it every single solitary year, so why not continue to cut the school budget, the LEA. I want you to know that when that happens, our kids go without. So for example, this year, in order for us not to go in the red as the Board of Ed, and you'll see when you look at the budget update reference A, we are using grant funds to cover those expenses that we've incurred. We received grant funds directly for COVID, but then we also have had to use other expenses, other grant funding for this. So our kids will go without something. So for example, had we had the LEA allocation, we perhaps could have had a summer school program where we would have been able to offer it to our elementary students all day long and provide transportation. So that's something that is greatly needed. It's not that our students are not at risk. In fact, we have kindergartners and preschoolers that are not. We don't know where they are. They didn't come to school this year. So, in finding them and then coming back to school, obviously they could have benefited from something this summer. However, unless you put something in full program in place, it's ineffective. And we don't want to do something like that. So I want everyone to understand that. I also want to just explain to you that we finally did hear from the State Department of Education yesterday, or the day before, May 9th, and they gave us our allocation formula funding for the American Rescue Plan, and Cromwell will be receiving $1,316,000, $324,000. So obviously that $312,000, so that we don't have to cut what I had proposed when we started the budget process. For example, the social studies teachers, we need them now more than ever, because not only obviously our students should be learning to be civic leaders and social studies, but we also need to absolutely provide intervention and enrichment. And this will allow us to do so with the focus period. So we'll have enough staff coverage in order to be able to do that, and so that we can meet our students' needs. Also, what we talked about was athletics. We know that our students, their well-being is very important, and participating in athletics and after-school program. The research shows that if the students are involved, they are more apt to be happy and healthy, and they come to school and do well. So obviously we want to make sure that we do that. So we are not looking obviously at that. We are looking, we can't put that in the grant because there are specific buckets. And luckily, myself and Dr. McLean worked in a district in need of improvement in the past, so we've written these grants. There is support out there to write them efficiently. However, Dr. McLean and I are going to do it on our own so that we can save some money. And we've done it before, and we feel that we can do it again and make sure that we are following legislation. So we are going to have to switch some things around so that things fall into the categories under the American Rescue Plan and the ESSER Relief Fund. And then we'll obviously have to put some of those items into the LEA budget so that we're making sure that we are legal in all aspects. So that's the good news. Some of the stuff that Dr. McLean talked about is obviously coming out of the American Relief Funds. We already have it spent, and we didn't even know what the number was. We went with 1.3, and when the numbers came in, Dr. McLean did a happy dance because that's what we need to be able to meet all of our needs. So we are in good shape there. I won't put you through torture and have you work on cutting anything. However, I want you to know that this grant is only 2 years. So eventually things, hopefully what will happen is the gaps will close in the 2 years, and we will obviously still need to have an increase in the LEA budget as time goes on, especially with graduation requirements and the social emotional component of our students' needs. So that is it. That's how we are making that happen. So you don't have to vote on anything. As far as cuts, any questions regarding the, I could forward this to you too. You could just see what all the district's allocations were, and it's based on our Title I funding. So as I explained previously, the state did not have the correct numbers or formula, so they had to hire an outside agency, and we just received them. But we have been planning this and thinking about how we're going to write the grant, which is due. We receive it on May 17th, and it's due May 24th. So Dr. McLean and I, it's a good thing we got our doctorate together because we spent a lot of time together. We're going to be spending a lot more time together writing that grant and getting it in a small amount of time. That doesn't mean they approve it immediately though. They will give it back to us for revisions. So any questions about?
So that means right now you don't need to cut the 300,000. You're just moving things around based on. Okay.
We'll move things around, and then we'll do like what happened this year, froze the budget, and then only what we absolutely needed. We had to do that because of what I'll talk to you about next.
Okay.
And we'll move things that you can use for this grant into the American Rescue Plan, and then obviously things that should be paid by LEA, we'll leave in LEA.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
The social studies teachers, they're going to be hired for 2 years?
No, so the social studies teachers, I will leave in LEA. I'm going to, so I'm sorry, when I use LEA is I mean the district budget. So we have to create plans as a school district that are in compliance with federal obligations. And so we know what those federal obligations, there's 4 buckets. It's the same as the ESSER grant buckets. So we've been thinking along those lines. We know that we are going to need the social studies teachers forever. Something that will go into the grant, which will be posted as a 2-year position, we believe, we still have to run some numbers, is, for example, the social workers that we'd like to have in every building. So that position will be posted for 2 years. Everything that is funded through the grants is always posted as grant funded. Some will have limitations, some will not, because it's not only this grant, we have other grants as well. So we do let whoever is going to apply know if it's just a 2-year position. And then you never know what could happen in the future. But we are very honest about the procedure.
So you will be looking to add 2 more social workers with that grant?
With this yes, with these current funds, we're looking to add the 2 more so that each building can have 1. We're going to need it. We already need it right now, as you know, as a school counselor. Yes. We are looking to have 2 years of a special education curriculum. Special education supervisor working with Miss O'Leary. We have much work to do, as we know that our students who have struggled in special education the most after, during, and still in the pandemic. We have many outplacements that we have to attend the PPTs. So we are looking for some support for 2 years. That position will only be posted for 2 years as well. And obviously the recommendation will come to you because you're the only one who's allowed to hire that position. Those will be grant funded. We talked about the curriculum supervisors. Those obviously will be grant funded, but from a different grant. And then everything else is programmatic of learning loss, trying to catch up our students, and providing programs that we definitely know our students need, both extended school day and then summer school. And hopefully we'll have enough to do summer school for 2 summers. We're not sure. We have to see how many kids enroll, where we end up, because we don't know who we have to hire yet, because we're not 100% sure. Parents have to make a decision, and those forms have been sent out to families. So it's complicated because we just found, we just got the go.
Catherine?
I have a question. As we talk about the different positions that aren't our traditional teacher positions, but like curriculum writing and all these other, we're going to need a new high school principal. Can you give a brief overview of how the application and hiring process goes for some of these positions, whether they're a district-wide position, something that's within the Board of Ed office, or just at a higher level within one of the schools? Because we do seem to have a lot of openings popping up, and do we look to, how do we post, where does it go, who interviews, who reviews, that kind of thing?
Sure. So we follow the CBAs, so the collective bargaining agreements, for everything that we do. We are not in violation of every single one of them. So they're all different. So if you're an administrator, you have to post inside for 7 days. You can find them all online under Board of Education. They're at the bottom. The contracts are under there. Mr. Morrow is shaking your head. So you can read all the intricacies so that we're not here, all night. But we do form a committee. So for example, it's posted for 7 days for the administrators internally. That means to their own union. Then it is at the discretion, because it's silent, of my team, depending on whatever team it's not always me that forms it either. It's Dr. McLean as well, the school principal. It all depends on where it is. And we interview the people who applied from within that union. That's the administrators union. That's completely, if no one applies, then we go out. That means when you go out, that means you're going out to everyone. You're going out to all of Cromwell, the entire state of Connecticut, the entire nation, it's a search for whoever wants to apply. So you have to apply. We form a committee, and we make sure we have representation from CEA, depending on what the position is, other groups, and we have a very strict rating scale. Michelle DeMoro and myself, we've worked very hard to create a rating scale. So every person who is on the committee actually has questions prepared ahead of time. They're given them the last minute. They ask a question. We have a rating scale. We have a rubric. Everyone has to rate the person. So there's 2 different ways of rating. We rate by number and then recommendation as well. So there is a very, very thorough and very transparent process that we go through for every single union as far as whatever their CBA tells us we have to do.
So just my understanding, we go through the process first internally and review all the applicants and go.
We could do both. So Mr. Morrow could come up. It depends on the CBA. So we could do both. We can actually do both, and it depends on which contract we're talking about. They're all different. So Michelle can explain a little bit more, but I definitely recommend, I know it's a lot of reading, but to read the CBAs as far as hiring, because they're so different.
Yes, as Dr. Macri has stated, a lot of the collective bargaining agreements state you have to, some of them state you have to post in and out, could be for 5 days, 10 days. The administrator's contract basically states you have to post inside for 7 days first, offer them the position, give them the opportunity to apply. Their contract does state that we're not required to hire someone from within if we feel that that person's not possibly the best candidate. However, we just follow the CBAs for all positions. For administrator positions, there's a committee that's placed together, like Dr. Macri stated. We discuss confidentiality. We go through the protocols of what a committee is required to do, from rubrics, hiring the best candidate and the most qualified candidate for every position. So that's done at an administrator level. At a level for a teacher, that's done at the principal, at the building. Each principal puts a committee together. That committee could be 2 to 3 people. They interview the applicants. They hire the best applicants. All rubrics are sent to me, and they're kept in my office for a year and a half, 2 years. And depending if anyone has any issues or they want to FOI their rubrics. Okay?
Okay, so unless there are any other questions, we're all set with, I want to make sure. Yes, we're all set with everything. I will review later. Actually, I do have to do it now. Sorry. I'm sorry. I thought I could do it later. As you will see in the retirements, we have quite a few people who have been with us for some time. That we definitely want to acknowledge. So earlier I said this news is bittersweet. We have Miss DeFiore, who has decided to retire as the principal of Cromwell High School. She's been employed with Cromwell since July 2010, so she's been a principal for over 11 years, and she will be retiring as of June 30th, 2021. I want to thank Miss DeFiore for being so welcoming, supportive, understanding, really just helping me walking into a new district as far as being a new superintendent. She really does know everything about the district, and I can't personally thank her enough, and I'm sure the staff and the students feel the same way. This is a huge loss, as I said to her. However, it is a great gain for a the Connecticut Association of School Administrators, which she will be taking the lead on as being part of that union for many years. It is definitely going to be so much better. The person who was at the helm was wonderful, but Miss DeFiore is really just going to take over and do a phenomenal job, and I look forward to working with her in that capacity. So she's not really leaving me, but she will be leaving Cromwell. I wish Miss DeFiore and her family, her newest grandbaby, Charles, she's going to be spending a lot of time with him, and she deserves the very best. She has been an educator for 36 years. So congratulations to Miss DeFiore. You will be missed, but I am so happy for you. Next, we have Miss Jennifer Ide, who is a science teacher in 6th grade at Cromwell Middle School since August of 1999, so 22 years at the middle school. And she will be retiring also as of June 30th, 2021. This year she did the incredible. She was one of our remote teachers, and as you all know, remote learning and remote teaching is not easy, and she did a phenomenal job with engaging our students, and I wish her the very best in her retirement as well. So that's. We also have Kathy Ribera, who's been a paraprofessional at Edna Stevens and in Cromwell since 1988, so over 33 years. We are incredibly excited for her. We wish her the very best. 33 years is a very, very long time to be devoted as a paraprofessional. It's a very difficult job, very rewarding, but it is a very difficult job. So thank you to Ms. Ribera, and we wish her the best in her retirement. And then lastly, we have Miss Lori Mangine, who has been a CAF manager in Cromwell and has been employed in Cromwell since 1994. And she is now also retiring after 27 years of serving the students of Cromwell Public Schools, making sure that they are well fed, well taken care of, and I know she takes her job very seriously, and we wish her the very best as well. And now I am officially done with that section.
Okay, so at this time, tonight we met, the facilities committee met, and we have Chris Cycley here from CSG, and he'll be presenting to us tonight on the future project that we're hoping to move along. And I don't know if you have if you can get it back up for us. And Mr. Cycley will take it from here. During our meeting, we basically went over a little bit of the history going back to 2016, as some of you remember, and what's needed to move forward on the next steps. Do you have anything to add, Dr. Macri?
Nope,
Okay.
just thank you to Mr. Cycley and CSG. They continue to work with us. They've been working with us since 2016 and still are eager to help Cromwell do well by our students, and I appreciate their support as we navigate this process. All set.
Sorry, thanks. Can you hear me now? Okay. So the first part will be the timeline from now until June 30th of 2022, which would be the deadline to submit a grant application for a building project to the state of Connecticut. So that'll be the first part. The second part will be just an overview of the 2016 facilities review for both Edna Stevens as well as Cromwell Middle School. And then the third piece is there's a slide in there for some budget information, just some high-level information so that everybody kind of gets a sense of what we're looking at as conversations evolve and recommendations are considered. Okay, so as I mentioned, the timeline. So starting now in May, this process would initially begin with reviewing the needs within the town between Edna Stevens and the middle school. Ultimately, a recommendation from the Board of Ed would go to the Town Council and Board of Finance, again with some budget information that I'll get into a little bit later. Those are all functions of the Board of Ed. Then ultimately, the Town Council and Board of Finance would review and move forward the recommendation of the Board of Ed, and then ultimately establish or appoint a building committee to take the process through the grant application through June 30th. That building committee can be appointed as the facilities committee that we met with earlier here tonight. It can really be anyone through this process. So assuming that happens between May and June, at the end of June, let's say, the recommendation gets the approval to move forward, or the nod, I should call it, to move forward into the next step. The next step would be to hire or retain an owner's project manager similar to ourselves to sit down with the superintendent and the administration and write ed specs, educational specifications for the project that is ultimately recommended to move forward. So that'll happen July, August, September, October-ish, somewhere in there. Some programming, as well as we would issue an RFP, request for proposal, for an architect to prepare schematic design documents, a function needed for the grant application in June. So we'd get that RFP out, we'd issue it, we'd select an architect, and then initially start that schematic design process, conceptual design process, along with the educational specifications to get through just about through the end of 2021. If you go to the next slide. So starting January, February, and March, we'll really have some more focused conversations around the actual design, the layout, the different scenarios, develop an estimate. Ultimately getting to the end of March. Now, I put in some dates in here. I just made some assumptions for conversation's sake for this schedule. I assume that we would have an approval or a referendum that would coincide with the budget on or about May 2nd. I'm not sure of the exact date, but I just used it for conversation's sake. So March would be the time that Town Council and Board of Finance would recommend the project to the town meeting. That would be set for sometime in late April, and then with the potential for the referendum in early May. Next slide. So just a few other things along the way that are going to happen. Continuously updating Town Council and Board of Finance on the progress of the project that's decided to move forward. Again, recommending the appropriation and bringing it to the Finance Committee for their approval needed for the town meeting. Planning and zoning, part of the charter is to have a design review meetings completed, and then ultimately, again in March, setting the special town meeting date, and then preparing for the potential of a referendum. April, there's 3 resolutions that we would need for town council that are part of the grant application. The very first one there on the left, establishing a building committee, that ultimately is going to happen sooner. That's one of the 3. The second one is to authorize schematic drawings and specifications to be prepared. And then the third is to authorize the superintendent to submit the grant application to the state. So those are the things that happen in April. Go ahead, next slide. As well as, again, collecting any of the certified meeting minutes, or we would need the voting tallies for a successful referendum or town meeting certified. We would collect all that information and get it in by the June 30th deadline. Go ahead. So before I move on, does anybody have any questions regarding timeline? No? Okay, great. So now, again, I'll take you through a brief recap of the 2016 facilities review. So the architect at the time, DRA, they went through both buildings as part of their scope, and they measured, did a layout, came up with some scenarios, and then ultimately, again, as we've stated previously, in 2016, the decision was to move forward with Edna Stevens. However, the same level of work prior to that was done for both buildings. So that's where I'm going to leave with these next few slides. So, oh, no, go ahead. Back one. Yeah, sorry. So the existing Edna Stevens, this is the layout. You can see the classroom sizes. They denoted them by color for the different sizes. Now you can go. Go ahead. Next slide. Sorry. So again, back in 2016, a few of the major concerns that came up regarding the facility was its age then, code compliance and ADA compliance. Corridor widths was an issue, as well as security, controlling visitor and parent access. Educationally, classroom size and conformity. Kindergarten didn't have toilets. That was part of the program that they were trying to implement then. Classroom environment, which I believe has been upgraded at Edna Stevens, part of the COVID pandemic. And then location of early childhood education program, which has also since been modified and improved. So again, these were just some of the items that came out of the report in 2016. Next slide. Ultimately, after several options, they did decide to move forward with a new building for Edna Stevens. As you can see, the white shaded building was the new building, immediately adjacent to the gray shaded building, which is the existing. So that was the scenario that they decided to move forward with then. Unfortunately, just kind of stalled out, bringing us here today. Go ahead. Next slide. So now we get into the middle school. Again, same thing. Architects went through, did a layout, measured the building, identified the classrooms, classroom sizes, science room sizes. One of the initiatives that they were trying to achieve then as well was an early notion of CLABs, or classroom laboratories. Those are the enlarged science rooms, trying to get to 1,200 square feet. Currently, they were anywhere from 685 to 1,000 square feet, significantly smaller than what the new program was trying to achieve. Go ahead. So again, some concerns with the facility. Again, its age, code compliance, technology upgrades, the modulars, which are still there. Educationally, again, you're going to see a theme here: classroom size, classroom environment, media center, computer labs weren't adjacent. Science classrooms, as I mentioned, were just small. And then the STEM program was currently taught in the home economics space, which I believe to still be the case today. Next. So a little bit further with the programming that was done on the middle school, again in 2016. On the right-hand side, I know it's difficult to see, but they did come up with a program at the time, and I'll get to that net square footage in a second. But a few of the things that they were trying to achieve were all of the classrooms, grades 6 through 8, they wanted to get uniform 850 square feet each. They were trying to get the science classrooms to be 1,200 square feet. And there was also a desire, as I believe there is now, to retain the existing gym and locker room area as well as the auditorium. Those two spaces, given that their size and this now being a middle school, would be extremely hard to retain in a new building project. So those were some of the items that they tried to incorporate. They did actually incorporate in this model here on the right. So recently we met with the superintendent. We went through current enrollment projections. Right now for the middle school, 2022 is the peak enrollment at 481 students. The state uses that as their initial step for their allowable square footage per student. So based on that, the maximum square footage that would be allowed is 80,808 square feet. The building currently is 83,000 square feet, so it's already 3,000 square feet over what the state would consider eligible. I'll explain a little bit further on the last slide with the budget where that comes into play. And ultimately, the program on the right resolved to be about 85,000 square feet, so they're about 5,000 square feet over what would be allowed. Next. Whoop. So again, in 2016, the option that was selected, though did not move forward, was the addition of a classroom wing and new science classrooms to try and achieve that right sizing of some of the classrooms as well as the enlarged CLAB science rooms, the 1,200 square feet science rooms. Go ahead, next slide. Okay, so now budgeting related to Cromwell Middle School. The existing building, as I mentioned, was is currently 83,000 square feet. The state uses a per square foot target of $450 per square foot for a renovation cost. That multiplied by the 83,000 square feet is approximately $37,400,000. So that would be a rough estimate of a grant application to renovate the entire existing building as it sits right now. Again, we mentioned that program that they did come up with in 2016 was even about 2,000 square feet more than where it currently sits right now, because they were putting on some additions. The current reimbursement rate for 2021 is 49.64%. That's important because even though the grant application goes in June, if the referendum is not held in May, as my schedule indicated earlier, the state does allow you to extend the referendum out to November, to the regular election. as long as that is stated and resolved at the town council prior to June 30th. So there would need to be a resolution saying we'll have a referendum in November, or anytime prior to November, right? If the referendum is held after July 1st, then a new reimbursement rate would apply. However, that's not published yet, so we don't know what the 2022 reimbursement rates are. Currently, like I said, it's 49.64. So it would be about $18.9 million would be the town share that would be added to the debt service over time. Where the additional space, the additional square footage over the allowable 80,000 square feet comes into play is here. There's a calculation that happens that says, okay, you're allowed 80,000 square feet, you're over that, and then there's a percentage reduction that takes place because you're building a bigger building than the state would normally allow. What that represents here is about 0.75%, so it takes it from 49.64 down to 48.29, or about $500,000 in additional town share funding. So your town share would go from 18.9 million to about 19.4 or 19.5, rounding. That's just to renovate the existing building, thereabouts, with an approximate square footage of what it currently sits at 83,000. If you were to build a new building based on the maximum allowable square footage of the 80,000 square feet, using an average $600 per square foot for a new building cost, new building, demolition of the existing building, and so on, that's about a $48.5 million project. The reimbursement rate for that, as you'll notice, is 39.64, which is actually 10% less than the renovate square footage, or I'm sorry, than the renovate reimbursement rate. And that's intentional by the state because they encourage you to renovate your buildings versus building new, if at all possible. So in that scenario, the town share would be $29.3 million to build a new building. So again, I want to note that these are very high-level square footage-based numbers. However, in talking to the superintendent and the finance department, we needed to establish some sort of range. If there's an appetite for numbers that look like this, and ultimately the program or the project is reduced in some capacity, then it would just reduce these numbers. These are kind of ceilings, still very rough, but it's kind of the top end of the grant options.
So if we were to build a new building at CMS, we're a little unique because the Board of Ed sits at the CMS building. Does that?
No, so it happens in a lot of districts where the board.
Oh,
yeah,
I've never been in a
included.
district where
Yeah.
that happens.
Yeah.
Everywhere I've lived, they've been separate. But does that get included in the renovation? Do we take down? I mean, how do you take down or would you take down just part of the building? And does that impact our reimbursement rate? Because it's essentially the middle school
yes,
and the Board of Ed.
Well, it's not so much the designation of the school as it is the Board of Ed space. Board of Ed spaces are typically half of the reimbursement rate if they're a standalone project. And again, these are conversations that would come out of the schematic design process and the programming with the architect that's selected. But if the Board of Ed were determined to remain as part of the project, there's a very good argument that it would receive the same reimbursement rate for that square footage as the rest of the building. If it were to remain in the same, if they were split off, then it would probably go in two separate grant applications. You'd have one grant application for the middle school, and then a separate grant application for 50% of your renovation. Of your reimbursement rate, I mean, for a Board of Ed space.
I just wanted we can obviously ask Mr. Cycli as many questions as you have. I want you to. He's here, so we took up all his night, so he might as well answer as many questions as possible. But what I would like for you to know, as just going back in the history of when I got here, which was August of 2019, there was a building project on the docket, but it was put on the burner again, and I was asked to contact CSG and work with them to find out where we were. We worked together along the board that was involved at the time. We talked about ECS. That was what, this is why I wanted Chris to really make it very clear to everyone, is that we, at that time, the superintendent's recommendation, and I believe it was 2 superintendents ago, and then continued with the prior superintendent without interims, not talking interims, but the prior superintendent, that we would move forward as a community with ECS. I believe differently. My philosophy is slightly different. I believe that CMS, and Tommy is here, both buildings are in rough shape. They both need to be done as soon as possible. However, I believe that it is in the best interest of the community, the district, our students, not only for operational purposes and efficiencies, but for programmatic purposes, that we move forward with CMS first, either it be a rebuild or whatever, a renovation, whatever the committees decide to do. But we stopped at, as Chris mentioned, we stopped at ECS, got the building ed specs. We pretty much were ready to go to, we did have a tri-board meeting with the Board of Finance, Board of Education, and the town council. And then we decided to wait because it felt rushed and that we didn't really look into CMS as much as we should have. So a year and a half later, that's what I've been doing. And COVID has brought many things to light, not only operationally, but educationally. Our students, because of the age, not because of the amazing, actually because of the amazing teachers that we have, especially the focusing on STEM or STEAM, which is science, technology, engineering, arts, and mathematics. We have a very gifted fine arts staff at the middle school, and we have excellent STEM teachers. And I would like for the Library Media Center to become the hub, like a makerspace space, as we should be doing, and finding pathways for our students as early as middle school. So I'd also like to bring back the students that we lose to aerospace and engineering and STEM-focused schools and magnet schools. And I believe we can do all of this and change things programmatically, which will make the building look different than what was proposed back then, which was just to rebuild some classroom wings to enlarge classrooms. We really would want to make the focus of the school. We would relook at this, which is why Chris said we would have to go back and hire an architect and look at this plan all over again and pretty much start almost from scratch. We have a lot of history, which is great. However, we need to make a decision as the Board of Education if we want to move forward with getting all of this information. And that pretty much would be the motion this evening, is to do you as the Board of Education want to move forward with anticipated pre-referendum costs. So hiring an architect and an owner's representative, so that at the approximate costs, as Chris said, between $50,000 and $70,000, so that we can figure this out and what we want to do, and then obviously follow the process and the timeline that Chris outlined. I have spoken and I've looked at the bonding from the town and spoke to Marianne Sylvester and Tony Salvatore, and everyone knows that it has to be a community voted on project. However, I did ask and look at the service debt, and it looks like Cromwell will have many projects off the books starting 23, 24, 24, 25, and that's most likely when we anticipate the larger part of the cost for the school year 24, 25. That's when the real construction would begin. There would be some other soft costs, $1 to $2 million perhaps, the year before, but the larger cash flow would come after that. And Cromwell is in a very good position to bring another project on board. And it is my recommendation for programmatic, for student engagement, for inquiry-based learning for the 21st century. There's a plethora of research out there that says the actual building, the space where students are learning, has a lot to do with how they feel valued by the community. And obviously, as we know, each age group, we still need to do ECS. We've made many adjustments. We could hang on for a few more years, but with CMS, it's so crucial for our middle school students to know that they're valued and there's a program for them and a pathway for them, and that they are welcomed every day by a building that is in great condition. And right now, that is not the case. So I just wanted to preface it with that, and then Selena, I'm sure Chris can answer any of your questions, and hopefully myself or Tommy can answer questions as well. Chris and Tommy are well, I don't think Tommy was in that position at the time. Nope. So Chris has the most history, so feel free to ask Chris any questions regarding the process.
Are there any questions at all? None, huh? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the anticipated
Selena, I'll make the motion.
Thanks, John. The anticipated pre-referendum costs for the architect and owner's rep services would be the motion. So thank you,
So
John.
moved.
Thank you. Is there a second? Is that Lou? Okay, thank you, Lou. All in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Okay, the motion passes. Great. Thank you so much for your presentation, for all of your time here tonight. And thank you, Dr. Macri, for pursuing this.
Our students deserve it. Thank you to Mr. Cycli for not giving up on Cromwell. It's a lot of work. 2016 to 2021 is a long time. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Not really. I could talk about the vaccine if you want me to, and the remote learning. Or do you want me to skip it? Okay, that's fine. I think so. All right.
Okay, Dr. Macri really covered a lot in her earlier report with her updates. So we're going to bypass B, the reopening plan update. We are fully open. Did you have a question, Catherine?
One question.
Sure.
I know I asked it before, but I know that we still have teachers that are working remotely and live streaming into classrooms where students are learning, and I heard there's a lot of struggle for those students. Are we asking those teachers to come back to the classroom this school year, even though there's just a month, less than a month left?
So it all depends on the doctor's recommendation if it's an ADA accommodation. So if it is an ADA accommodation, we follow any requests that have been written from the doctor. We still do have remote learners who choose to be remote. We are not moving forward with remote learning next year. It is our expectation as the district that everyone come back to school. We understand that there will be some students that may need accommodations because of an illness or of some sort where they cannot, and they may not be able to be vaccinated. We're talking about the little ones, or whoever else chooses. So we will have to come up with a plan to be in compliance with the law, and it goes back to what always was anyway. So as far as teachers coming back, it all depends on what our needs are. So right now our needs have been met for the most part. We still are continuing to stream based on the needs of the personnel, which obviously I can't discuss, and I don't think I should say much more
Have we evaluated the performance of the students who are in a classroom with their teacher live streaming in? Because that seems to be as difficult a struggle as a student that's sitting at home live streaming into a classroom.
Yeah, I don't think that anybody disagrees, which is why we're not moving forward with streaming. I think everyone is on the same page, from the teachers' unions, the State Department of Education, any research that you've read. I think we all are in agreement that streaming was a Band-Aid for something that we never expected to come. But we are evaluating, we do evaluate all of our staff, so everyone is evaluated, and all of our students will be and continue to be evaluated. We have a iReady assessment, a STAR assessment, so we are looking at all of it, and we definitely are looking at the difference of remote learning. It's really hard to tell, too, because we have had kids who have been quarantined 2, 3, 4 times, then we've had teachers who are streaming in, so there's so many different variables that to say, I would love for someone to do this as a research study. They would have a hard time, but I'm sure someone will do this as their doctoral degree in the future. Really, what was the impact? Because really there are just so many variables on streaming in and kids streaming in.
Can I change my question then? Do we have any teachers that have been live streaming into classrooms coming back into the school for the remainder of the school year?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So maybe we should just actually touch on quarantine. You mentioned quarantine.
Okay.
It reminded me that you usually go over how many are in quarantine.
I'm not sure if Jillian is still on. I did tell her she could disconnect because we were going so long. So, Miss Hanson, are you still on? She said, I'm still here.
Yes,
if you
I'm
need
still
me."
here.
Of course you are. Of course you are, Mrs. Hanson. You're always there. Miss Hanson will inform you of active COVID cases. She can fill you in on quarantining, which we are still doing, and we need to finish strong, and that's what Mrs. Hanson is going to tell you as well. Our kids have been able to participate in so much. We need to finish strong. I know it's frustrating. I think our kids care less than our adults. It's difficult with the masks and everything else, but although changes will be made in society after the DPH call this morning, it does not seem that it applies to schools. We really want to finish strong and get through the next month to the best of our ability. And Jillian, if you want to just touch upon the vaccine clinic that we have going, and then how the process will work as far as perhaps getting a clinic for 12 to 15-year-olds, which will look a little different because they can only receive Pfizer as of now, and it has to be refrigerated at a certain temperature. And many providers are saying, DPH is saying no to school systems in general, but you can actually go to the provider, which we've been working with CHC. So it's to be determined as far as the 12 to 15-year-olds, but we are definitely in contact, and Jillian has been in contact with CHC. But it's a little bit more of a difficult process because it's not Moderna or Johnson & Johnson. No, we did Moderna, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
No, we did Pfizer.
Oh, we did?
Pfizer's the only one that's.
Oh, I'm sorry, we did. So
Yep.
why are they
Pfizer's the only one that.
So, Jillian, why are they saying that it's more complicated for refrigeration and everything for 12? It doesn't make sense to me then. You're right. We did do Pfizer. We had to. Or am I wrong in understanding?
It is more complicated.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, but you're right. It does need to be refrigerated. They do come in large batches, and so when they open up a large batch, they have to use that right away. So it has to be, we had to work very, very closely with CHC and give the exact numbers of people that were wanting the vaccine that day. Due to people being sick and quarantines, we did have some extra doses, and we reached out to other staff that still wanted the vaccine to try and use those doses, and they certainly don't want to waste any. So it is a bit of a process, and
it has to be looked at very carefully because they don't want to waste doses.
Jillian,
So
I'm
yes,
sorry.
it does need to be refrigerated.
Jill, I feel badly because as Sal and Jillian know, I was on 2 webinars at the same time this morning. And to me, in my head, I'm thinking, well, okay, we did Moderna, that was why. But Catherine just enlightened me again as I forget. So what did they say this morning as to why? I believed that was part of it. Was there error in some? Is that why they're looking at it more closely now? Or is it, or they didn't really expand upon it?
They didn't really expand upon it. I think that was the other webinar we were on that was more, maybe, I don't know, more telling as to what the reasoning was. But I know that they do not waste doses because there is a shortage, right? In some, we're doing much better in the United States than other countries, but we certainly don't want to be wasting doses in large quantities. So it is a little bit more tricky to get these clinics, but I definitely have been in contact with CHC, and I'm waiting to hear back from them as to if we can offer a clinic and how that will run. And that's to be determined. We definitely will be incorporating the middle school and the high school students that were not eligible. And we just have to see, what they have to offer, because as you can imagine, every school district in Connecticut is wanting the same thing. And to keep in mind that we only have 4 weeks of school left, and the Pfizer vaccine has to be separated out by 3 weeks in between the first and the second dose.
Okay, now you just
reminded.
reminded.
There's a lot of school districts.
Now you reminded me. That's exactly why. Too many vaccines are being wasted, which is why we talked today about doing a survey. Sorry, you're right. It was the other meeting. I was listening to 2 different ones. Do a survey of our students first so that we can better inform the provider, in this case CHC, hopefully, so that we're not wasting any vaccines, because we wasted quite a few, not on purpose. It's just because of the process. And then I know Meriden Public Schools had over 1,000 vaccines, and they had called me and said, send your students over. I said, we already did it. We had not used some of our own vaccine. So that was why. I'm sorry. That's why you just reminded me. It wasn't on that one. It was the other one. I had 2 phones on today. Okay, go ahead, Jill. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, so we just need to be very, involved with CHC and make sure that we are using, and that's difficult to do when you maybe do a quarantine the day before. That can change numbers drastically, and you have to look at who's signed up and who's, then can't come, and then people that are sick just in general, and those things. That's life. We weren't too badly in Cromwell. We were able to use some of the doses, and I think there was only 3 that were left over. So we worked hard to make sure that we were not, wasting any doses. So we did talk about the DPH call this morning. Did talk about things possibly changing on the 19th. So the mask mandate is still in place until the 19th, and what comes out on the 19th is still to be determined. The governor hasn't said. There is some talk that will change things outside, but the DPH call said today, that's 3 weeks from the end of our school year. And Cromwell has been very successful in what we've done so far. And I think to change things for the last 3 weeks is not recommended. That's what they said. They said, you should continue on with what you have been doing because it's working well. And we don't know what the changes that will be made on the 19th until that happens. So it doesn't give us a lot of time to prepare. As far as quarantines go, I think we definitely are seeing the results of people being vaccinated and people being outside more, which is a good thing. We have 5 active positive cases, and they are all at CMS. And as far as quarantining is going, we have only one staff quarantining, and that's at CMS as well.
And then as far as quarantine students, we have 4 at ECS, 0 at WIS, 41 at CMS, and 2 at Cromwell High School. So definitely a big change from what we've seen in the previous months. So I think that's good news.
Jillian, can I just ask if your student? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Can I just ask if your student does get quarantined? What is now the recommendation for return to school? I'm a little unclear on that.
Yes, so we did move a couple weeks ago to the least restrictive quarantine. It is on the CDC website. You can look it all up, but it is that if you test on day 5 or after from the exposure to the positive case. So you have to look at the day of the exposure and go 5 days out. And if you have to test on that day or after that day. You can't test before day 5. And if that test is negative, and it has to be a PCR test, not a rapid test, like an antigen test. If that test is negative and you can provide the results to the school nurse, then your student can be cleared for school after day 7. So that basically is day 8 after the exposure. And day 1 is the day after the exposure. So let's say you were exposed on Tuesday, day 1 starts on the Wednesday. If you do not test at all, then you have to remain in quarantine for 10 days and can return on day 11.
Okay, thank you very much.
So we do have to, does that make sense?
It does. Thank you very much for clarifying. Dipti, you had an additional question, right?
Yeah. Hi, Jillian. Stipti. This quarantine does not apply to children who are exposed during athletics. Am I right? It does. Okay.
So yes.
No, I mean, are they?
Is different.
Yeah. I thought they were quarantined longer.
It is different with the.
Yeah, the 10-day. You're right.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant they didn't have to at all.
No, but they have to do longer. I think they have to go longer. Am I right?
I'm not going to interrupt. Go ahead, Jillian. Answer
Correct.
Dipti's question because I misread it, but you didn't. It's 10 days.
Yeah. So for any athletic involvement, so if you're playing sports, they consider that a higher risk activity than sitting masked in a classroom. So if it's athletics and you're playing in competition, then you have to quarantine for 10 days, coming back on day 11, and there is no test out guidelines for that. And that's written by DPH and in their school recommendations.
Thanks.
And Catherine?
Based on the number of students that we had at the vaccination clinic and the number of students that may have turned in their cards that said that they had 2 vaccines already so that we can calculate their no longer need to quarantine date. I know there's a lot of kids coming up this current week we're in. Do we have an estimate of how many students at the high school level that may be vaccinated already or will anticipate being vaccinated over the next month or so?
Legally, we are not allowed to ask for a copy of the card. Some, if you have, so for example, if you have been, you need to be quarantined, you get a call, you need to be quarantined, we ask you, Jillian or whoever calls says, have you been vaccinated? That's the only question we're allowed to
But
ask.
students are submitting their cards now.
So I think some are, yes, some. I don't think, I don't
And we had the
many.
clinic knowing that.
We're not even allowed to actually know who those, like we have a list, but it goes in the shredder at the end. We're not supposed to know. It's under all the HIPAA laws and everything else. But Jillian and I talked about this at length. You know, we try to figure it out. We said there's approximately 80 kids, but there were 85 students, I think, who received the vaccine, or close to that number, and we had 324 who qualified to get it. So if we said even another half perhaps, and since then, and it's very important for everyone to know, the board and the community. People have rushed to submit religious exemptions for the vaccine. The legislation has not made a determination as to whether or not those will be accepted. None after, I think, April 28th, Jill, is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
Were accepted, but just because
The 28th.
we took them, it doesn't mean it actually means anything, because it still has to be determined legislatively. So there's a lot of legalities still to come, which is why you see a large expense when it comes to legal issues. We do our best to figure them out, but this is uncharted water.
Oh, go ahead, Lou.
Yeah. So we have had some parents offer the vaccine cards, and we will accept them if they're offered, but we can't ask for them, and we will only ask for them when it is in a quarantine situation, just like Dr. Macri said. That's the only time that we are allowed to. So, but we are certainly, people that are sending them in, we are accepting them, and they will be put with the other immunizations that your child has.
Lou, did you still have a question?
Yes. In regards to the policy changes that may or may not come down that we don't know yet regarding the last meeting that you have with the Department of Health, the state, somewhere in that realm.
DP, yeah.
And the finishing strong. Am I to believe or to understand that no, even if the state comes down on the 19th or 20th and says that you can take more than 200 individuals in a gathering outside, et cetera, am I to believe that we're not going to take any of those considerations into play? And I do get the finishing strong. That's a great thing. But I'm a big proponent in getting things back to normal as quickly as possible without putting undue risk.
Yeah, we
and
already
and again,
did that.
with that,
We already it's already being done. If it's an outside event, like, we don't cap who attends sporting events.
I know there's some events upcoming that I was hoping to attend. I'm going to talk specifically in the music program. I know the events. I've been to a couple of sporting events already. But a music program where they're being capped at 200 outdoor. Is that the case? If that happens after I'm just saying, because I know specifically, being previously very involved with my kids in the music program, I still am very involved with a lot of the parents that are actively involved in the music program and boosters, et cetera. And to try to avoid what happened last year with the students not being able to take some of their performances, having people attend the performances, especially if they're outside.
Yeah,
I want to be able to make sure that they're being treated, and if there's an outdoor event and the governor makes some recommendations or allowable recommendations to schools,
we are fair across the board. So I have
Okay.
Ms. DiFiore on the board. I just want to make sure. I have to sign off on anything. If something was capped and it was outdoors, it was specifically requested by perhaps.
Yeah, I just want clarification, because I'm getting mixed.
It's fair across the board.
Yeah,
athletics,
I'm getting
music, everything.
I'm getting mixed opinions from individuals in the community.
Oh, don't worry, you'll get that.
No, that's why I want to clarify now with staff, with your superintendent, and individuals, health officials, and whoever we need to do to make sure that if there's an event and it's we're doing it by by recommendations, and it comes down from, I know some mandates being lifted, coming on the 19th, 20th. I want to make sure that that's being taken into consideration if it's an outdoor event.
So every single thing, every decision ultimately is a decision of the health coordinator, the local health department. Everything is. We use DPH and CDC. Obviously, we have to make sure we adhere. Every single thing that we do, any event that has been proposed has been in writing, and Mr. Neshi looks at it, and offer suggestions. He has not turned down anything that I've seen that has been proposed. Indoor is a little different for specific reasons. As far as limiting certain things to tickets, we've done that in the past also as well as part of our practice. But I don't know where any of that may have come. I'm not sure.
I will follow up
Yeah,
with
you
you.
could follow up
I will
and
certainly
email
do
me
that,
and let me know.
and also.
Or ask
I
the
I will
principal,
follow up with you. I will specifically follow up with you. Also, are we going to get, once you find out what comes down the pike for us as far as policy changes, will you be able to, I know the year's coming to the end, but if there's anything that happens between now and we're not going to meet before the 20th. So if there's something that happens, could you let us know, because I think it's important. When's the next meeting?
I always let you know, and I always let the parents know too.
Right,
I send an update, and then whatever I send to families, I send to you at the same time. If
Right.
as a parent you get it, and then I forward it to the board, myself or Lisa. So every single thing that changes every single time, and we have COVID-19.
I see that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
all every
No, I'm
single
saying
thing.
between now
Yeah, I'll
and
continue to do
between
the
now
same.
and our next board meeting, there's going to be a lot of things happening over the next week and a half.
Mhm.
A lot of things happening, coming down from the governor's office down.
Right. You won't see too many changes in the school system. Where today, as Jillian said, with DPH, they are making very strong recommendations and to the health advisors that we stay the course and do.
In regards to masks
Yes,
and
and
social
all that,
distancing and
right.
things.
Yeah.
But the outdoor is going to be held across the board, regardless of the activity.
It's already been.
It's already
That's
that.
why I'm not sure.
That's again, I'm not
Yeah.
questioning that's your intent. I just want to make sure. I want to follow up with you because I want to make sure that the information I'm getting and I'm portraying to you here at this board, that there's people come to you and they ask you things or they get mixed signals. I want to make sure that it's addressed and
Yes,
that
and you
people
can
get the right
refer them-
information. Absolutely.
Refer them to
So
the
I
principal
appreciate
or
it.
me. Everything, anything that we have been able to minimize and be able to do and feel safe about it, especially the quarantine period. We're at the minimum within school. We have done all that. So and as always, parents can contact the school, contact me.
I appreciate it. I know you're a big proponent on getting back to normal. I mean, we all
We've
are.
been in school a
but-
lot longer than a lot of other districts.
Well, you've also you give us regular updates. I mean, we get the weekly principals updates that always get sent to the board. You give us your updates with the weekly principal updates, but when there's a change, I mean, we get it right away, and as board members, we always get copies of it. So I feel like we've been on top of all of that, and we've been aware. So if I've noticed that a lot of parents are not always reading. There's a lot that comes out, and not all the parents read what comes out, and then they question everything because they haven't actually read all of the information, because it's a lot. But
It is a lot.
they need to read what's coming out from the schools and the district, because it's been laid out.
And
very
I've tried
clear.
to limit, because there's so much important information coming out, and we've had people request for other things to come out. So I've tried to limit what I'm sending out. That isn't as important, because I want to make sure parents read what is very important. But all of that will continue to happen as it has been the entire time.
That I hear from parents is mainly because they didn't read all of the information.
And society and everything that's happening in society is so, in some situations, so contrary to what's happening. But schools, we've been very communicating regularly. Everything is out there, and if someone has a misunderstanding, it's usually because they may not have read the information. And obviously, there's so much out there. So please encourage people to call the school, look on the website, and read and read your emails. It's hard. I know everybody's really busy. Yeah. I'm trying. Yeah. Yeah, everyone, I hear it too. I see it when I see no one ever told us this, and then I go back and it's in 4 newsletters that went out the week before. I try to stay away from social media, but people tell me anyway, and I'm like, no, that was in the newsletter 4 times for a month, and in bright yellow letters that get sent home every time there's a positive case. So I understand.
Some of these parents are, without mentioning and getting into it, are very involved parents.
Yeah.
Not people coming off the street that don't read the information. It's just, they're talking amongst themselves, and they're very involved parents because their kids are in the program, so they know what's going on. So I wanna follow up with you. I wanna find out what their concerns were, and then follow up. Maybe it's just that they were addressing something that was misrepresented to me. So I wanna make sure, and I'll follow up with you. That's okay.
Yeah, I think the parents should follow up with me, and I can tell them where to find. The information is very easy to find. It's right on the website, and I send it out. I email it. I am more than happy to talk to anyone who wants to talk to me. Sure.
Okay, Dr. Macri, I'm looking at the rest of the agenda. Is there anything you want to table, or should we move on to Teacher Leadership Academy?
So the reason why I think we should do this, I believe Dr. Vasone is on as well with Dr. McLean as far as Teacher Leadership Academy. Dr. Vasone, are you still on?
I'm here.
Yes, I'm here, Dr. Macri.
Okay.
How are you?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you for waiting so long. I'm sorry. If we could get through that, and then I think we could table the rest. The only other thing we
The
really
rest
shouldn't
should be
table.
quick anyway. I
Yeah,
think. So
is
we can keep it.
the vision and mission.
Okay.
Okay. So thank you very much to Dr. McLean and Dr. Vasone. We really would like to build teacher leadership capacity in our district. You don't have to have an 092 or be an administrator to be a teacher leader, to be a paraprofessional leader, to be a custodial leader, to be a CAF worker leader, anything. You could work here and be a leader. You don't have to be an administrator. And we work really hard to offer those leadership capacities. And however, they do require a lot of training. And Dr. McLean and Dr. Vasone have been working very hard to. I think it was going well, but I think it's going even better now because there's that strong connection between Central Connecticut State University and Cromwell Public Schools. We're trying to revive it after COVID, and so you can take it over from here and let us know how everyone's doing.
Okay, so it's been my honor to work with Dr. Vasone from Central Connecticut State University and the Teacher Leadership Academy over the last few years. This group of dedicated teachers have worked to develop their leadership skills and have implemented school improvement projects that have impacted the culture and academic in our schools. Despite the challenges of the last year and a half, these teachers have given a great deal of their time to support students and their colleagues. I'm really proud of the work these teachers have done. This cohort of teachers include Carol Esterwitz, Karen Bosworth, Nicolette Burns, Diane Delarada, Marissa Humphreys, Peggy Lair, Courtney Mason, Andrea Middlebrook, Lisa Pergolisi, Deborah Capriore, Melissa Seguro, and Stephen St. Ange. Dr. Vasone, are you on still?
I'm here, Dr. McLean.
Okay.
Did you want me to comment now?
Yeah, go ahead, sure.
Okay, I'll be very brief. Certainly, Dr. Macri and Dr. McLean have mentioned a few things that I wanted to highlight, but I'll amplify something that Dr. McLean said. We're so proud of the work that these teachers have put in. I've had the pleasure of working with teacher leaders here in Cromwell for the past 4 years, and I've seen incredible growth in their leadership abilities and capacities. And I've also seen them undertake some amazing projects that have enriched the school system. And I want to emphasize, like our Board of Education members, these folks are volunteering their time. So it's really important that we as a community celebrate these teacher leaders who have put in so much extra time. I also want to emphasize something that Dr. Macri said before about leadership and how important it is at all levels. The research tells us the most successful schools and school systems have leaders at different levels of the organization. That includes formal leaders and roving teacher leaders like we are building the capacity of here in Cromwell. And we've got a video, I think, to show you where some of the teacher leaders are going to tell you in their own words about what they've been doing. But to conclude, I'm super proud of them, and it's been a great pleasure of mine in my work to work with them. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Bajone. Krista Scallo and Doug McGough from our instructional technology coaches have put together a short video that highlights the work of the teachers that I'm hoping we can play for you now.
I'm a faculty member at Central Connecticut State University's Department of Educational Leadership, Policy, and Instructional Technology. I also serve as the partnership liaison, where I've been lucky enough to work with the Cromwell Public Schools for the past 4 years. One of our main projects in this partnership has been to run a teacher leadership academy. And I've had the opportunity to co-facilitate that teacher leadership academy with several members of the Cromwell Public Schools leadership team, including the last 2 years with Dr. Carrie McQueen. I wanted to take a few minutes to acknowledge the hard work of our teacher leaders. For those of you who don't know, teacher leaders who participate in this program do so voluntarily. They take up their own time to come and learn professionally, to build a community of learners together, and then go back into their schools and lead.
Overall, the Teacher Leadership Academy enhanced the leadership skills for many teachers across our district. Specifically, the Teachers Leadership Academy provided us the platform and the guidance to initiate a project that we believe to be beneficial to Cromwell.
We learned about the importance of understanding and navigating the systems within the school. What goes into planning a new initiative that contains multiple moving parts, and how to have important collegial conversations.
During the beginning of the year, we joined Teacher Leader, and we were looking for a way to kind of build community and culture and climate at our school. We did not do it alone. We actually had students that were kindness ambassadors that got involved, grades 6, 7, and 8 students, and they were a tremendous help in us being able to pull off that week.
Unfortunately, due to scheduling changes and ultimately COVID, we were not able to see our project to fruition. However, by going through the planning and organizing process, we still gained so much.
It has been a pleasure working with so many colleagues who think out of the box. It has been a great opportunity, to work with these folks, to collaborate with them, to bounce ideas off of them. So I really enjoy, the thorough process.
Teacher Leadership Academy became a community of Cromwell teachers with whom we were able to learn from and collaborate with. Through professional and sometimes personal discussions, we were able to learn from each other's experiences, different experiences, depending on what building we taught in, and perspectives as both leaders and teachers.
I have tremendous pride and am so proud of the work of our teacher leaders. They have enriched the public schools for our students. They've run great projects that have made things better for all. And they've taken their leadership skills that they've learned in the Teacher Leadership Academy and brought them back to their schools for informal leadership opportunities.
The teacher leadership project that I worked on was building equity at Woodside with our students from Hartford. So Mr. Butwell and I came up with the idea to have a bus reward system. He gave me freedom to figure out how to do that. The greatest result of this is when I looked at the data between the Cromwell buses and the Hartford buses, the amount of referrals for bus behaviors was down to only 7 for the Hartford buses, but the Hartford buses had a significantly less amount of referrals than they did the year before I even started this program. It was a really successful program.
For my teacher leadership project, I decided to implement mastery-based learning.
is the concept of getting rid of standardized grades of A, B, C, D, and F, and instead focusing on what skills do we want our students to learn. So this has been our kind of pilot program. We currently have a few teachers who we made a mastery-based committee, and we are all working together in order to make the school on the track towards focus more on standards and skills than just on grades.
And I think not only as an educator but a leader, because being a leader is not just about accomplishing things just to accomplish them, but to make sure we are helping our students. So that's the ultimate goal, to make sure every student is being successful.
It's been an absolute pleasure working with Dr. Zone and the Teacher Leadership Academy. It's been amazing to watch the teachers' dedication to improving teaching and learning and culture and climate. The work that they've done on their projects throughout the last couple of years has really impacted our schools in the way that they function on a daily basis.
I'm really proud of you. Thanks so much, teacher leaders.
I'm really proud of their work, and this has been a great experience for me as well.
So thank you very much to Dr. McLean and Dr. Vasone. As you can see, the projects that our teachers decided to work on are a huge contribution to their schools and to our district. So I thank Dr. McLean, Dr. Vasone, all of our teachers tremendously for the work that they do. And hopefully we will just keep adding more and more teacher leaders to our Leadership Academy as we move forward.
Thank you. I echo that thought, and let's give them a round of applause. And love seeing all the projects that are going to just influence our students and help them, be the best that they can as well. I'd love to see the collaboration with the teachers. So thank you, and thank you for staying on the line all night.
So quickly, we absolutely need everyone to stay. We need a quorum for voting, and executives will come into public session again. So I'm sorry it's going so long. But we just ask you to stay. And Mr. Flanders, don't hang up. We need you. Okay.
Okay. She did not bribe me.
Okay, so next on the agenda is approval of minutes and motions from the April 6th. Reference B in your packet. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Okay. Catherine, second by Jen. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Moving on to the healthy food certification, reference C in your packets. Is there a motion to approve this certification? Okay, by Dipty, second. Okay, Jen, all in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
John, is that your opposed? Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, that was me saying aye.
Okay, all in favor. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Next is the Cromwell Public Schools mission and belief statement. Enza, would you like to go over that first?
Sure. Just very quickly, we meet as a district leadership team, and Jen Lamberson is the board's representative, and we have been working for about 2 years. It would have gone much quicker if we didn't have a little blip in the middle, to rewrite our vision and our belief statements. Placing students first, I believe, says it all as our mission, and we are sticking with that. However, the vision statement is in bold, and this is what the committee, we wordsmithed, looked for words that were really important, that we believed every child should, that every person in Cromwell should believe for our students and should want for our students. So if you have any questions, myself, Dr. McLean, the principals are all on the committee, Ms. Lamberson, we'd be more than happy to answer. Otherwise, I would like for the board to move forward, and this will be our official mission, vision, and belief system.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? Jen, second. Catherine, all in favor?
So moved.
Aye. Opposed, abstentions, motion passes. Now we also have approval of out-of-state Six Flags senior trip date change. Is that something we need to approve?
Yes, well, there was a date change, and I just wanted you to approve it to make it official because the park wasn't officially opened, so we had to go back and we misinterpreted something.
So moved.
Okay.
Good.
Is there a second? Catherine, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. Moving on to informational principal reports, reference F, G, H, and I. Are there any questions about those? Okay, and then we have human resources personnel activity, reference J. Any questions on those?
Can I just make a quick comment?
Sure.
I was excited to see that we hired a French teacher.
Yes.
And I heard he was an intern in my district, and I've
Yes.
heard very good things about him. So I just wanted to let you all know.
We did, and
Yep.
we have a couple so far in the docket for the high school. So perseverance, it gets frustrating at times when you really can't. But I was like, we're not giving up. We can't give up. We're not giving up. So let's just hope. I think he really wants to be here. So we'll keep our fingers crossed that all is good.
Okay, board committee reports, policy, was it supposed to meet tonight but got canceled?
Correct.
So we don't have one for that. And facilities and technology, we definitely talked about that already, so we'll skip that. Topics for future agendas and possible action to approve additional topics. Anything? Okay, comments, updates, and announcements from board members and administrators. Start with Catherine, anything? Dipti?
Just one question. Kelly took over Paul Nuri's position.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, we'll do that at the next because the personnel action was due before. Oh, no, it is in here. Yeah, Michelle did put it in here. Sometimes the person starts after, so so that's for Paul Nuri, correct. Sorry.
Jen, anything? Okay. I just want to quickly give a quick thanks to the PTOs for everything they did for Teacher Appreciation Week, because I know that's a long week. And then we also appreciate the teachers and everything that they do.
Yep. And it was also Nurses Appreciation. CAF Workers Heroes Day. So really, we just really appreciate everything everybody does every day because it's one person. We are not in it alone. We're all in this together. So thank you to everyone. And it's been a rough year, but I am so incredibly proud.
Okay, at this time we have an executive session. Is there a motion to for the purpose of discussion and possible action of agreement between the Cromwell Board of Education and the United Public Service Employees Union, Cromwell Board of Ed Administrative Support Staff, Local 424?
So moved.
Thank you, John. Second. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Motion passes. And John, I'm going to call you back so we can disconnect this call.